Okay, the last part we're going to talk about is some of the different formatting that we can do for the different string the different numeric values we can have. And the very first thing that it talks about is the CIS113 method. Now, if we take a look at the screen over here, this is actually out of the book. And right now, if we were to create a variable, a double type numeric variable, in this case we got 10.0 divided by 6.0, it's going to actually print out as 1.66666666. Okay, so what if we wanted to control how many decimal places we wanted? Well, some of the different things we can use is the printf, and what we do is we have a formatted string and then we have an argument list. Okay, so in this case right here, if I were to say systemout.printf, I love Java programming ./n. Now we've seen in the past the /n should go to a new line, but with the sysoutf printf, it will actually print /n, so it kind of ignores the /n new line indicator. So what we have now is, in this case, I have this right here, systemout.printf. Our sales are %f for the day /n sales. So so what's going to happen there is this %f is a new numeric formatting process. So if we look over here, the page that contains everything that we'll need is page 165. So if we go over to page 165, here's what we have. We have a %, we have a flag, we have a width, we have dot precision, we have conversion. So right now we are using the % and the conversion. We're saying take the first numeric value and convert it to whatever the f is. And what is the f? Well, the f is either a float or a decimal. So basically it is a decimal place numeric value. Okay, so that can be either a float or a decimal. So it's basically be dealing in decimal places. Okay, so if we go back to our previous example, so now we've got double sales and we've got this numeric value, and we say our sales are %f for the day. It's actually going to print our sales are 12345.6770000 for the day. Why did it add a bunch of zeros? Well, the default is that number of decimal places. Okay, and we're going to control that decimal places here in just a second. So in this particular case here, I have the temperatures are %f and %f degrees. What's going to happen there? Well, in this case here, we've got double temp is equal to 72.5 and temp 2 is equal to 83.7. So we have two numeric variables. So the first variable is the first one that it occurs is going to be this first %f, and the next one that occurs is going to be the second %f. So basically here's what's going to print out. The temperatures are that, and notice the length of the decimal place, the default length of the decimal place. So that's kind of it at its most simplistic usage is the % and the f. Now another thing we can use is the %d. So the %f is either a float or a double, which basically is decimal places. If we use the d represents integer data types. So basically we're getting into whole numbers now. So in this case, well, just to kind of take the f first one step further. Now, here's what I've got. I've got %F, 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 and then I've got comma, value, comma, value, comma. So you notice these are encased in double quotes. Now, these are the values that are going to get thrown into F1, the first F. Value 2 is going to be placed in the second F, and value 3 is going to be placed in the third F. Okay, and again, it's going to print out 3, 6, and 9, and notice the number of decimal places. Okay, so here we've got int hours is equal to 40, and here I've got sysout.printf. I've worked %d. Now again, no decimal places. This is an integer or whole number, and again, here we've got the comma hours that says take the very first %d or %f, whatever this happens to be, and grab this variable and throw it into that slot. And what's going to print? I worked 40 hours this week. int dogs equals 2, int cats equals 4, and then we have %d dogs and %cats, %d cats, and then I got comma dogs cats. It's going to print out we have 2 dogs and 4 cats. So there we have all of our little our syntax for the it's called the specifier. Percent, then whatever follows that percent. If a flag appears, we'll talk about flags in a second, it'll follow that flag. And then we've got the width, we've got the dot precision, notice it's got dot in front of it, and then we have the conversion. So we've used the percent and the conversion so far. So now, we come down here, here is where we utilize the precision. It says sysout.printf, the temperature is %.2f. So we know what the percent and the f is utilized for. That says this is going to be a float or a double. The .2 says only basically round to 2 decimal places, and it's going to grab the temp. Notice we've got 42819. So again, it's going to round. So in this case, we got 428. If we go 2 decimal places, that should be 0.43. So if we look at the output, it comes out to the temperature is 78.43 degrees. Okay, so double temp, sysout. Okay, so we kind of see what's going on there. So again, if I've got the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and I've got the 3 values on there, the first one's going to have 1 decimal place, 2 decimal place, 3 decimal place. Okay, the next thing we have is specifying the minimum field width. In this case, back at our syntax, it shows the flag, then the width. So that's a numeric value. So here we have %20f. What does that mean? What that says is it's going to display 20 characters. If there's only 3 before the decimal place, it will backfill, or it will put in front of that 17 spaces. Okay? So if we look here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.6789, and we say the number is %20f. Okay, again, the F says this is a decimal place, or a float, or a double. But we're saying it's going to take up 20 characters. So if we look down here, the number is, and it's got a bunch of space in the front, then the number, dot, and then the decimal place. Again, see how I added the zeros? Because it does have a default number of decimal places. So now we can actually, we come down, so here we have a 6D, so that's an integer data type. It's going to take up 6 characters. So what's nice here is now we can right-align our numeric values. Okay, I won't say right align because it's always going to align them by decimal place. So if I have a width of 20 at each one of those numbers, and we'll see an example here in a second, it's going to align each one of those decimal places. So now here we have used the width and the precision. So we've got %20 12.2f. So again, the f says this is a decimal place, a float or a double. So yeah, it's a 12.2f, which means it's going to be a width of 12. It's going to have 2 decimal places, and it's a float or a double. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.6789. Notice we've got some leading spaces, and we have .68. It rounded 0.6789 to 0.68. So let's take a look at an example. So we take a look at the columns, and here we have double 1, num1, num2, num3, num4, num5, num6. They're all doubles. Notice we've got variations of numeric places, so on and so forth. So here I've got percent 8.2f, which says make sure that you, and I was wrong, that /n will make it go to a new line. Sorry about that. It will go to a new line. So 8.2f says it's going to be 8 spaces long no matter what. And at least, I should say it's a minimum width. That means it's going to be at least 8. Because if I have 10 numbers in there, 10 numeric values, it will basically put 10 in there. So I have 8.2f, so it's going to have 2 decimal places, and we're talking about a float or a decimal. So if we were to run this, basically this is what we get. Notice we got some leading spaces out here. Kind of hard to see, but there are 4 spaces. These are what's called, oh gosh, it's monospace, and can't think of it, but basically depending on the font you use, each for example, a W is going to be wider than a letter I. So it's not like each monospace says each character will take up the same space, and these aren't monospaced. So there we have some leading spaces, and we have 2 decimal places for each. Now we had 3 up here. These are all 3, but it basically went down to 2, so I could come down to 1 there. So nice, a nice example of using basically 3 of the syntax parameters. Okay, so if we then take a look at the next example, we'll take a look at the format. So now here we have a new flag. And this flag is either going, we'll just talk about the first one. It's a comma. So you notice I've got percent, comma, 0.2f. Now we know what the f does. That says it's a float or a decimal. We know what the 0.2 does. It's going to basically round to 2 decimal places. Now we have a comma. That says this is going to make it into a comma thousand separator. So if we have 1,000, or 10,000, or 100,000, or a million, it's going to put commas in the proper spaces. So here I've got 5000.0. I take that, multiply it times 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and display it. So if I go ahead and run this, we have, now notice I put a $sign in front of that. Now the $sign is hard coded. It's always going to be there. So it types $sign 60,000.00. So the .2 made it default to 2 decimal places, and they put a comma in the 1,000 separator. The next one is called leading zeros, and what that one is going to do is there I've got 09.2f. Okay, so we know what the 9 does. That's going to make each number 9 characters long. The .2, we know what that does. F says it's a float or decimal. The 0 says it's going to put in at least 1 leading 0. Okay, so if I were to run this, one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, okay, yeah. So it's 9 characters long. Now, since it's 9 characters, if I've only got 1 to the left of the decimal place, it's going to front fill that with zeros. That's what that 0 says to do. So it's going to have leading zeros. So notice each one of these is, so again, always aligns by the decimal place if it can. Because again, if I had 11 character or 11 numeric values before the decimal place, it would basically put those 11 in there. So, commas leading zeros. Okay, we'll end there and we'll pick it up here in just a few minutes.